Right now, there are people eating eggs every morning, thinking they're doing everything right, while quietly putting more strain on their body than they realize. Not because eggs are bad, but because something critical is missing, and the body pays the price for that gap over time. The real question is, what exactly are you leaving off your plate that's changing everything inside you? If you're serious about taking better care of your health, make sure you subscribe. I share simple, practical advice designed especially for seniors. And feel free to leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. I always read them and appreciate every one of you. Let's get back to it. Most mornings, it starts the same way. The pan goes on, the eggs come out, and somewhere between the sizzle and the first bite, there's a quiet sense of satisfaction. The kind that comes from knowing you're doing something right. Satisfied eggs have become one of the most trusted foods in the world, and honestly, that trust is earned. High quality protein, essential amino acids, vitamins your body relies on every single day. You've heard it 100 times, and every time the science backs it up. So you kept eating them every morning consistently because that's what a health-conscious person does. But here's the part that almost no one talks about, the part that gets buried under every article praising eggs, every doctor recommending them, every health channel celebrating them as the perfect food. Eating eggs alone, just eggs, nothing else beside them, may be one of the most common nutritional mistakes people over 60 are making right now. Not because eggs are dangerous, not because the protein is too much, but because of something far more subtle, far more invisible, and far more important. I'm Dr. Zoey Scott, and over the years I've observed a pattern that quietly repeats itself in people who are genuinely trying. People who cut the sugar, eliminated the processed food, mute structure into their meals. Eggs became a non-negotiable part of the morning because everything they read told them to, and yet by mid-afternoon the energy drops. Not dramatically, just enough to notice, the kind of fatigue that doesn't match the effort, the kind of sluggishness that doesn't make sense for someone eating as carefully as they are. And when you dig into what's actually happening inside the body, the picture becomes very clear. The eggs weren't the problem. The problem was what wasn't sitting beside them. Here's what most people don't realize. Your body doesn't process nutrients in isolation. It never has. Every vitamin, every beneficial compound inside that egg, it needs partners to work properly. It needs the right nutritional environment to be absorbed, regulated, and protected at the cellular level. Without those partners, you're getting partial benefit while your body carries the full metabolic load. That's not a small thing, especially as the body ages and its internal systems become less forgiving of gaps in nutritional strategy. There are 3 specific foods, simple, affordable, easy to find, that completely transform what eggs do inside your body when you eat them together. They're not exotic. You've probably had them in your kitchen before. But the way they work alongside eggs is something most people have never been told, and by the time this is over, you'll never look at your morning plate the same way again. Let's start with something your body does every single day, something it has been doing quietly, without complaint, for as long as you've been alive. Every time you eat protein, any protein, your body gets to work breaking it down, dismantling it piece by piece into amino acids your cells can actually use. It's a remarkable process, efficient, elegant, one of the most important things your metabolism does. But here's what that process leaves behind: nitrogen waste. When your body metabolizes protein, it produces a byproduct called urea, a nitrogen-containing compound that your bloodstream carries directly to one place for filtration and removal: your kidneys. Now, healthy kidneys handle this without issue. They filter, they clear, they move on. And for most of your life, that system worked seamlessly. So seamlessly, you never had to think about it. But here's where the story changes. Research shows that kidney filtration capacity declines at approximately 1% per year after the age of 40. Let that settle for a moment. By the time someone reaches 65, their kidneys may be operating at anywhere between 60 to 75% of the filtration efficiency they had in their 30s. Not diseased, not failing, just quieter, slower, working with less reserve than they once had. And every morning, when eggs are eaten alone, protein without fiber, without fat, without antioxidant support, the kidneys absorb that full metabolic load by themselves. No buffer, no support system, just pure nitrogen waste hitting a filtration system that has less capacity than it used to. This is what's called metabolic load without metabolic support. And it's the hidden cost of a habit most people believe is healthy. Now, to be clear, this is not about avoiding eggs. That is not the message here. Eggs remain one of the most nutrient-dense foods available, and removing them from your diet would be a mistake. The issue has never been the eggs. The issue is the gap. the empty space on the plate where the supporting foods should be. Think of it this way. Imagine running an engine, powerful, well-built, but consistently without enough oil. The engine still runs, it still moves, but beneath the surface, friction is building, wear is accumulating, and over time the performance that should have been there simply isn't. That's what eating eggs alone does to a body that's aging. It runs, but it doesn't run clean. And the older the system, the more that gap matters. This is why what you pair with your eggs isn't a minor detail or a nutrition afterthought. It is the difference between feeding your body and actually supporting it. Starting with the very first upgrade and what happens when you finally stop leaving the most important part off your plate. So now you understand the load. You understand that every morning, when eggs hit your digestive system alone, your kidneys absorb the full weight of that protein metabolism without any reinforcement, without any buffer, without the nutritional partners that were always meant to be part of that meal. But here's where the story goes deeper, because the kidney strain is only one piece of this. The bigger picture, the one that changes everything about how you think about food, is this. Your body was never designed to process nutrients one at a time, not once, not ever. From the very first moment human beings began eating, meals were combinations, roots beside protein, fat beside vitamins, fiber beside everything. Nature didn't package nutrients in isolation, and your body's entire digestive architecture was built around that assumption. Which means when you sit down to a plate of eggs and nothing else, you're not just eating a simple meal. You're asking a system built for complexity to operate on a fraction of what it was designed to receive. Here's what that actually looks like inside your body. Eggs contain fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin D, vitamin A, and compounds like lutein and zeaxanthin that are critical for eye health, immune function, and cellular protection. These are genuinely powerful nutrients, the kind that researchers spend careers studying, but fat-soluble vitamins cannot be absorbed without one thing: dietary fat. Without fat present in the same meal, these compounds pass through your digestive system largely unused. Your body registers them, attempts to process them, and then moves them along, because the mechanism required to absorb them simply wasn't activated. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adding healthy fat to a meal containing fat-soluble nutrients increased their absorption by 3 to 8 times compared to eating those same nutrients without fat. 3 to 8 times, that's not a marginal difference. That's the difference between a nutrient working and a nutrient wasted. And fat is only the beginning. Eggs are rich in high-quality protein. We've established that. But protein digestion doesn't happen cleanly without fiber present to regulate the pace. Without fiber, protein metabolism accelerates, nitrogen waste builds faster, blood sugar responses become less stable, and the gut microbiome, the community of bacteria that governs more of your health than most people realize, loses the fuel it needs to function. Then there's cholesterol. Eggs contain dietary cholesterol. And for decades, that single fact made people afraid of them. But here's what the science now understands far more clearly. Dietary cholesterol is not the enemy. Oxidized cholesterol is. When cholesterol is exposed to oxidative stress during digestion, stress caused by free radicals that go unchecked, it becomes unstable, reactive. And that reactivity is what creates pressure on blood vessels and cardiovascular function over time. The solution isn't to remove the cholesterol. The solution is to surround it with antioxidants that neutralize the oxidative environment before damage can begin. But without antioxidant-rich foods on the plate beside those eggs, that protection never arrives. So what you have when eggs are eaten alone is a nutrient profile that is genuinely impressive, surrounded by a series of invisible gaps that quietly prevent it from delivering its full potential. You're not eating a bad meal. You're eating an incomplete one. And difference between incomplete and complete, it comes down to 3 specific additions, starting with the most foundational one of all. So, the body runs on systems. Nutrients don't work alone. They activate each other. They depend on each other. And without the right partners present in the same meal, even the most powerful foods deliver only a fraction of what they're capable of. That brings us to the first upgrade, and in many ways the most foundational one. Eggs paired with healthy fats. Now, before anything else, let's be clear about what healthy fats actually are, because this is not about adding just anything oily to your plate. Healthy fats are specific, intentional, and the ones that matter most in this pairing are avocado, olive oil, and nuts. Simple, accessible, already sitting in most kitchens. Here's what they do when they share a meal with eggs. Inside every egg yolk lives a collection of fat-soluble compounds that most people have never heard of. Lutein, zeaxanthin, vitamin D, and vitamin A. These aren't minor nutrients. Lutein and zeaxanthin are the primary defenders of long-term eye health. Vitamin D governs immune response, bone density, and mood regulation. Vitamin A supports skin integrity and cellular repair. Powerful compounds, all of them. But here is the problem. Every single one of them requires dietary fat to cross from your digestive tract into your bloodstream. Without fat present in the same meal, the absorption process stalls. These compounds arrive at the intestinal wall, and without the fat-based transport mechanism they depend on, they simply don't get through at the levels your body needs. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition confirmed exactly this. Adding healthy fat to a meal containing fat-soluble nutrients increased their absorption rate by 3 to 8 times compared to meals without fat. 3 to 8 times more of what was already in your eggs, simply by adding avocado or a drizzle of olive oil beside them. Without fat, you are leaving the most valuable parts of your egg largely uncollected, but the benefits don't stop at absorption. Healthy fats slow the digestive process in a way that stabilizes energy output across the entire morning. Instead of a sharp protein spike followed by a mid-morning crash, the meal becomes sustained, measured, the kind of energy that carries you through to the afternoon without the dip that so many people over 60 have come to accept as normal. They also support hormonal balance, critical as the body ages and hormone production naturally becomes less consistent. And emerging research continues to reinforce the connection between dietary fat intake and cognitive function, particularly in older adults. This is not a complicated upgrade. Half an avocado, a handful of walnuts, a tablespoon of quality olive oil. Any one of them changes the entire equation of your morning meal because it's not just about what you eat, it's about what your body can actually collect from what you eat. And right now, without this, you're leaving far too much behind. The first upgrade unlocks what's already inside your eggs. Healthy fats open the absorption pathway, pulling fat-soluble vitamins and protective compounds out of the digestive tract and delivering them into the bloodstream where they can actually do their job. That single addition transforms the nutritional return on a meal most people thought they already had figured out. But absorption is only one side of this equation, because while healthy fats are busy unlocking nutrients, something else is happening on the other end of the digestive process. Something quieter, something most people never think about when they sit down to breakfast. Their kidneys are already working, and if there's nothing on that plate to support the process, they're working alone. That's where the second upgrade comes in. Eggs paired with fiber. Now, fiber has a reputation. Most people associate it with digestion, with gut health, regularity, and the kind of advice that feels more practical than exciting. And while all of that is true, it dramatically undersells what fiber actually does inside an aging body eating a protein-rich meal. Let's go through it properly. When you eat eggs without fiber, protein metabolism moves quickly. Nitrogen waste, the urea byproduct produced when your body breaks down amino acids, builds up rapidly in the bloodstream and heads straight to the kidneys for filtration. As we established earlier, those kidneys are operating with less reserve than they had 20 or 30 years ago, and a fast, unregulated surge of nitrogen waste is exactly the kind of load they were not designed to handle alone. Fiber changes that dynamic entirely. First, it slows digestion, not in a way that causes discomfort, but in a way that regulates the pace at which protein is broken down and absorbed. Instead of a concentrated wave of nitrogen waste hitting the kidneys all at once, the process becomes gradual, measured, manageable. Second, fiber feeds the gut microbiome. The trillions of bacteria living in your digestive tract don't just process food, they participate in nitrogen metabolism. A well-fed microbiome helps convert and neutralize a portion of the nitrogen waste before it ever reaches the kidneys. That's a built-in filtration assist that most people are unknowingly switching off every morning by eating fiber-free. Research published in Kidney International Reports found that higher dietary fiber intake was directly associated with lower circulating urea nitrogen levels and measurably improved kidney efficiency markers in aging adults. In simple terms, more fiber means less pressure on the kidneys after every protein meal. That is not a small finding. For someone over 60 eating eggs daily, that finding changes what breakfast should look like. Third, fiber stabilizes blood sugar. Eggs alone produce a relatively stable glucose response, but pairing them with fiber creates an even flatter, more controlled curve. No unnecessary insulin spikes. No reactive energy crashes, just clean, consistent fuel delivery across the entire morning. The sources are simple: vegetables, spinach, broccoli, zucchini, berries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. Even a modest handful alongside your eggs is enough to activate all three of these mechanisms simultaneously. You don't need a complicated side dish, you need presence. Fiber on the plate beside the eggs every morning, because what fiber does isn't glamorous. It doesn't have the dramatic absorption numbers of healthy fats or the cellular protection story coming in the next upgrade, but quietly it may be doing more to protect your kidneys, stabilize your energy, and support your internal systems than any single habit you've built in years. And most people eating eggs every morning have no idea it's missing. So far, 2 upgrades. Healthy fats unlocking the fat-soluble nutrients already waiting inside your eggs, multiplying their absorption by 3 to 8 times, and delivering sustained energy that carries you through the morning. Fiber slowing protein metabolism, feeding the gut microbiome, and quietly reducing the pressure placed on kidneys that have been carrying that load alone for far too long. Both of them matter enormously, but this third upgrade, this is the one that changes everything at the cellular level. Eggs paired with antioxidant-rich foods. And before anything else, understand why this pairing is the most critical of the 3. Remember what was established in Chapter 3. Eggs contain dietary cholesterol, and for years that fact alone made people fear them. But the science has moved far beyond that simplistic view. Dietary cholesterol is not the villain it was once made out to be. The real threat is what happens to cholesterol when it meets oxidative stress. When free radicals, unstable molecules produced naturally during digestion and metabolism, go unchecked inside the body, they attack nearby compounds. And cholesterol, when oxidized by that process, transforms. It becomes reactive, adhesive, the kind of compound that creates pressure along blood vessel walls and quietly accelerates cardiovascular strain over time. This is not about the cholesterol in your eggs. This is about what happens to it without protection. Antioxidant-rich foods are that protection. Spinach, tomatoes, bell peppers. These aren't just colorful additions to a plate, they are active defense systems. Their antioxidant compounds neutralize free radicals before oxidative damage can begin, creating a protective environment around the very digestion happening in real time. A comprehensive review published in the journal Nutrients found that antioxidant-rich dietary patterns significantly reduced markers of oxidative damage and cardiovascular inflammation. The exact biological processes triggered when cholesterol goes unprotected during digestion. When you pair eggs with antioxidants, you are not just eating, you are shielding your cardiovascular system while the meal is still being processed. That distinction matters more than most people realize, because the damage being prevented here isn't dramatic or sudden. It doesn't announce itself. It accumulates quietly, invisibly, meal after meal in the people who never knew this pairing existed, and it doesn't accumulate in the people who do. The addition itself requires almost nothing. A handful of spinach wilted beside the eggs, sliced tomatoes on the plate, half a bell pepper chopped and cooked in the same pan. 30 seconds of effort, a protective mechanism that works from the very first bite. This is why antioxidants are the most important upgrade of the 3. Not because the others don't matter, but because without this one, even the healthiest eggs carry an invisible risk that never needed to exist, one that you now have the power to eliminate every single morning. 3 upgrades: healthy fats to unlock what's already inside your eggs, fiber to regulate the internal load and protect the systems quietly working behind every meal, antioxidants to shield your cardiovascular system from oxidative damage that accumulates invisibly over time. Each one simple, each one accessible, each one already within reach. But before the final chapter, before the action plan that brings all of this together, there's something more important to address. Because the 3 upgrades are not really about eggs. They're about a fundamental shift in how you think about food after 60. For most of life, eating was straightforward. You chose foods that tasted good, fueled your day, and kept hunger at bay. Nutrition was about input, what went in. And for decades, that approach worked well enough. The body was forgiving. Its systems ran with reserves to spare. But the body that exists at 60 is not the body that existed at 35. Not because it's broken, not because it's failing, but because it has changed. And a strategy that never changed with it is quietly falling short in ways that don't always show up on the surface. This is the shift most people never make. They keep eating for input, more protein, less sugar, cleaner ingredients, all of it correct, and none of it complete. Because the question was never just what goes in. The real question is what the body can actually do with what goes in. That distinction is everything. A nutrient that cannot be absorbed is not nourishment. It's overhead. A protein meal that overwhelms an aging filtration system is not strength. It's strain. A cholesterol-containing food eaten without antioxidant protection is not fuel. It's an unguarded exposure happening 3 times a week, 52 weeks a year. Efficiency is the goal, not restriction, not eating less, not eliminating foods you've trusted for decades, not rebuilding your entire diet from scratch. Simply eating smarter, combining intentionally, giving your body the full system it was always designed to operate on, instead of handing it isolated pieces and expecting complete results. Think about what that actually means over time. Every morning you pair eggs with healthy fats, fiber, and antioxidants. You are absorbing more of what you eat, straining your internal systems less, and protecting your cardiovascular health before the day has even begun. That compounds, day after day, meal after meal. The body responds to consistency in ways that single dramatic changes never produce. Small, deliberate, repeated. That is what genuine health looks like after 60. Not a transformation, an upgrade. One that respects where the body is now and works with it instead of against it. You were never doing it wrong, you were simply doing it incomplete. And now that changes. You were simply doing it incomplete. That was the last thing said, and it deserves to sit for a moment before anything else. Because that word, incomplete, is not a criticism. It never was. It's a diagnosis, a precise, honest identification of the gap between what most people believe they're doing for their health and what their body is actually receiving. And now that gap has a name. Now it has a solution. So here is what changes starting tomorrow morning. One rule, simple enough to remember before the pan even goes on. Never eat eggs alone. Not because eggs are the problem. Everything covered in the last 7 chapters has made that clear. But because eggs alone are a system running without its full components, a process missing its most important inputs, a meal that is genuinely powerful operating at a fraction of its potential. The full system looks like this. Add a healthy fat, half an avocado sliced beside the plate, a drizzle of quality olive oil in the pan, a small handful of walnuts on the side. Any one of these activates the fat-soluble absorption pathway, pulling vitamin D, lutein, and zeaxanthin from your eggs, and delivering them into the bloodstream at 3 to 8 times the rate they would reach without it. Add a fiber source, a handful of spinach, a cup of berries, sliced zucchini cooked alongside the eggs. Any one of these regulates the pace of protein metabolism, feeds the gut microbiome, and quietly reduces the nitrogen load hitting your kidneys with every meal. Add an antioxidant-rich food, tomatoes, bell peppers, leafy greens. Any one of these neutralizes the oxidative environment created during digestion, protecting cholesterol from becoming reactive, and shielding your cardiovascular system before the first bite is even finished. One addition from each category, or start with just one. One upgrade is enough to begin changing how your body responds to a meal it has been eating for years. Here's what that looks like across time. Within the first few days, more stable energy, the kind that doesn't collapse at 2 in the afternoon and leave you reaching for something just to get through the rest of the day. Within the first few weeks, internal shifts, less metabolic strain, better absorption, a digestive system operating the way it was always designed to, with the full complement of nutritional support it was built to expect. And across months and years, the compounding effect of a body that was supported consistently, not occasionally, not perfectly, consistently. That is the difference between a body that survives the years ahead and one that moves through them. You now know what most people eating eggs every morning will never know. The question was never whether to eat eggs. The question was always what to put beside them. Now you have the answer. Thanks for watching all the way through. Staying informed is key to living a healthier, longer life. If you want more simple, practical health advice, make sure you subscribe and tap the next video on your screen. And before you go, leave a comment and rate this from 1 to 10. Your feedback helps me create better guidance for you.